Dirk Lincicome, Philo football, is joining us here with Storied Rivals. Always appreciate your time, Coach, and talking some football, man. It's good to see you, and I'm glad you're enjoying your vacation so far. And first, I just want to say that I'm really sorry for your loss of a coaching colleague, but also someone who I know was a dear friend to you in Josh Wright, who you coached alongside with for the better part of 15 years at Philo, and he just took the reins of the Valley program. He's been there with Cam the last couple of years, and I just want to ask, how you're doing, and I guess give you the platform to kind of talk about your relationship with him. And I know that, this time has probably been pretty hard for you and your program.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on again. Really enjoy doing this each year leading up into the football season. And this year's a little different, having lost Josh Wright and, what he and his family have meant to our program. Back to 2010, hired him as my first assistant when I got the job, and actually met with him at a Tim Hortons in Zanesville right there on Maple Avenue. And really the first time we ever got to sit down and talk football. And I could tell immediately that he was so knowledgeable about the game and he was organized. And so, really good first impression of him and hired him immediately. I was fortunate that Troy Dawson had reached out to me before that and said, we have a new English teacher at our high school, Josh Wright. And I'd only met him one time before that, but we never really had a chance to sit down and get to know each other. So it was a good experience. And then, he was my right arm for 14 years of my 15 years, every year except last year. He went to Tri-Valley and then became the head coach there for a short time, as it turns out. Got to coach with him in the All-Star Game a couple weeks ago up in Licking County, and me and two other members of my staff were in that All-Star Game coaching alongside him and his staff, and it was really a fun experience, and it's really great to get a final win with Coach Wright and Cam West and Marty Bice and Nick Bice and all those guys, Tyler McGee, Michael Harper, and just, you know, um, glad to go out with that good experience. And then, you know, obviously it was a tragedy what happened, and um, we tried to do the best that we could with honoring him at our stadium, and then Tri-Valley did that at their stadium, and it was Paul Bear at his funeral, and it was really difficult time talking to his parents and his family members, and keeping pretty close touch with Maggie especially, and then his son Drew is one of my junior high coaches. So sort of the legacy of Josh Wright continues in our football program. Maggie was our water girl for 10 years, from the time she was 8 years old until the time she graduated high school. So really close connection to the family, and just keep them in your thoughts and prayers, because I think after the initial frenzy of, you know, the funeral and everything after that settles down, it's really those times when the family feels the reality of the loss. And so I would just ask anybody watching this to please keep Amy and the kids and Josh's parents and his brothers in your thoughts and prayers, because it's difficult. It's very difficult for them, especially. And he definitely carved out a big hole, and his personality was he absolutely loved the game of football. He loved working with kids. So it's a huge loss, and what he stood for will continue on, but just not having him around, it's different. We talked a lot, and it's just different. So thank you very much for acknowledging that and giving me a chance to talk about my buddy.
Of course, and thank you for sharing, everything that you did share, and it was very well said what you said. So I appreciate it. And I was talking to Cam earlier today, and I kind of didn't realize it until we were talking that he coached with you at Philo for 14 years. He's been with Cam the last couple of years, and he coached Cam when Cam was playing at Tri Valley in the early 2000s, and then obviously journeys kind of take their shape or whatever, and he ends up back at Tri Valley some years later and is coaching with Cam. But you guys all got to coach together in the All-Star Game, which I thought was, now looking back on it, I mean, kind of a poetic way. I mean, obviously you never want anything to end or anything, but like, man, how beautiful is it that you got to coach with them one more time? Cam coached with him in that All-Star game, and you guys kind of all came together for that All-Star game.
It was a fun experience. With those All-Star games, you only practice a couple times. We practiced Monday through Thursday and then played the game on Friday. So everything has a level of urgency about it. You got to get things in and installed, and you got to kind of figure out really quick who can do what and who's going to do what. And the nice thing is the players are so coachable and they're excited. They get to play their last high school football game, whether they go on to college or not. It's their last high school football game, and most of those guys, it is their last football game forever. So it's um, it's really awesome to coach, certainly with your friends, but also to coach kids that are so excited and eager about the game itself. And you think over time maybe that diminish or kind of fall away, but man, it's always a really physical game. It was really intense, and I was so glad that our guys showed up and were ready to play, and our coaches did a great job of just getting everything simplified, and so the kids could just go out there and play hands free and not have to think too much. So looking back on it now, knowing that that was the last time that we would be side by side coaching on the sidelines, I'm really grateful to Cam for giving us the opportunity to coach with them. That's decided at the MVL meeting after the previous football season is over. And lately it's been a kind of a collaboration between multiple schools to coach in that game. And we were just, fortunate enough to fall into that. And as it turns out, it was for a reason. And I'm very grateful that we had that opportunity. It was with so many negative, sad things surrounding the last month or so, that was a bright spot. So very grateful for that.
Cam mentioned like over the last couple of years, he has struggled to like beat him to the office or to the locker room, for practices or whatever. Like he is in there. He said as early as like 2 o'clock in the morning one time, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, like every day. Like, did you ever beat him to the office or to the locker room?
I don't think so. So Josh had this thing about um, he always wanted to be the first one there, no matter if it was just a workout or a practice or a walkthrough, a game. He just loved being the guy there to open the door. And I think that was part of his sort of preparation, him getting in the right mindset to compete. And he was good at it. And he was relentless with his commitment to being first guy there. There were a lot of times when it would be after practice. So not just getting there early, but after practice was over, we would have some things that needed taken care of, equipment needing organized, or a couple phone calls, or maybe there were still a couple of kids there whose parents hadn't picked them up yet. And he and I would be there in the coach's office and he would say, "Get out of here, coach. I got this. I got this." Or there would be some paperwork needing organized and he would say, I'll take care of it. And that's who he was. It wasn't a facade. It wasn't an act or sort of a, hey, everybody look at what I'm doing. It's just really who Josh was. And he just really cared a lot about what he did. And he was highly committed. He didn't have hobbies. Josh was not a guy who, I mean, he golfed a little bit, but I wouldn't consider it a hobby. Football was his hobby. It was his love. It was his go-to. He would text me in the middle of the night sometimes and say, "Hey, I was just looking at last year's week 6 game. And did you notice that every time the ball was between the 40-yard lines, this happened?" And as a head coach, I can't tell you how valuable just little pieces of information like that are when you're game planning for that same opponent the next year. And he was just uncanny for that. He just really, I don't know, he spent a lot of time, first one there, first one to leave. And even when he wasn't at football, mentally he was at football.
So how is the off season, right now? I know you've had 7-on-7s. You'll probably have scrimmages over the next couple of weeks I mean, week one, it just seems like it's right around the corner, but like, how are your kids responding through everything? How have they come together? And I guess, how are they developing as this off season progresses?
Yeah. So, you know, This is year number 16. So a lot of the things that happen during this time of the year are kind of, you know, predictable to a degree. Every group is different, and every season is different, and you change every year. But what I've seen out of our kids this year, certainly with this recent tragedy, it's kind of pulled us together a little bit. We really don't have, when we talk to the team, it seems like there's a lot less small talk and a little bit more. Listen, guys, we have to value the time that we have together, and it's hot out here, and we have work to do, and a lot of this stuff are things that we do every day. But find some value in it and maximize the time that we have together. You know, we want to maximize people. We want to eliminate waste, and we want to be as efficient as we possibly can. And maybe that's another credit to Josh Wright, because this summer has been highly efficient for us. Feel really good about the kids that we have and what we've been able to accomplish since the beginning of June. So I would say things are, they're on track right now, and maybe slightly ahead of schedule. Just kind of having that, I don't know, sort of reminder that we just don't know how long we're going to be driving this train, or how long we're going to have this experience. So while we're here, make the most of it. It's been that's another gift that he gave us, was a reminder that while you're here, get it done and do it the right way, and attention to detail. And we have kids showing up early now that are putting in a 45-minute agility workout before practice starts, and we've not had that in the past. And I have to assume that part of that was inspired by Coach Wright and just the way things played out. But it's been a good summer, and we're pretty excited right now.
Now, I know you lost a lot of experience up front, due to graduation. I think you had 4 guys on the offensive line that were seniors, and maybe 1 guy that was a junior that's coming back this year, if I'm not mistaken. But what's developing a new, younger group like? And I know your teams traditionally, the success is built up front on the offensive and defensive line. You love to ground and pound and run the football. And I guess what's just been developing this new offensive line up front been like?
Yeah, so we do bring back a couple starters, and the guys that graduated, it's always really hard to kind of put a value on what they brought to your team, because you never know until week one what they meant to you up front. We had a senior center, Tyler Looker, and then our right guard was Braden Bernard, and our right tackle was Landon Gill, Bulldog. And we also got Cameron Wheeler, that played a lot for us, center, guard, both sides. So losing those guys is tough. It's really difficult because, as you already pointed out, the offensive line is the backbone of your football team. And it really doesn't matter who you hand the ball off to. If everybody's blocked, we can run all day. But if we have the best running back in the state and nobody to block for him, he can't outrun 11 guys every play. So bringing those guys along, Christian Long and Dakota Kinney, come back, and they both have a lot of experience, started a lot of games for us. So we're pretty excited about those two coming back. We have filled in that center spot with a kid named Braden Dix. He's doing a great job. Big kid, snaps the ball well, knows all of his rules. At the right guard spot, we have 2 seniors, Trenton Dowdy and Gibson Swartz. Both of them are about 5'11", 6 foot, 200 pounds. They're just working really hard, battling it out at that right guard position. And then Grant Rhodes is another sophomore. Grant's about 6'4", 240 pounds. So we got some good size up front. When we go out to practice in the time with our offensive line, we rotate multiple groups through. And the big thing right now is, since we're non-contact, just trying to get them to understand where to be, who's your guy, and just working on that mental part of the game right now. So we figure if we can guarantee that we know who to block at this part of the year, we'll continue working once we're allowed to hit on how to block them and how to continue to block them. So a lot of a lot of things in the summertime are mostly mental and just being in the right spot, knowing where to stand, how to stand, and then what to do when the ball snapped. And then once we get into the dog days of August, as they say, we'll figure out what to do with our hands and feet, and you know how to put bodies on bodies so that we can open up those running lanes for our skill guys.
Now, I know we filmed one of your recent 7-on-7s, and I saw Jack throwing the ball, man. I mean, he can really sling it. He's got an arm on him, and I know you. If you could run the football every play, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, you would. I know you would do that every play. But like, what are your expectations of Jack going into his senior year? And are you going to air it out a little bit more than you traditionally do, or I guess what are you thinking?
You cut right through the chase, didn't you, Will? Uh, uh, we always want to try to be balanced, less
Sure.
predictable, and you know what we got into last year a little bit. We ran the ball very effectively. I think we were the number one rushing offense in the NBL, or we were
Hmm.
near the top. We ran the ball effectively last year and sort of got back to sort of a ground and pound sort of philosophy on offense. Jack was a first year starter last year as a junior. And, there were games when he was pretty precise and got the ball where it needed to be. And then there were games when sometimes the throws weren't there. There were games when the throws were there and we didn't catch them. There were games when the route was there, the throw would have been there, we couldn't protect. Which brings it back to why I love just handing the ball off to a really good running back, and it's so much easier just to hand that ball to the guy next to you. A lot fewer things have to be managed, but with Jack being a senior quarterback now, and as you pointed out with the passing scrimmages, he's grown a lot physically and mentally, and certainly that's what you hope for a quarterback going into his senior year. It's kind of a now or never scenario where he's worked really hard. He had a good wrestling season. He had a good baseball season. So not playing summer baseball this year has allowed him to devote more time to what we're doing now, which is understanding who we're throwing the ball to and how those guys, although the plays are the same for everyone, those those bodies out there have different speeds. They have different twists and turns, and knowing where the ball has to be delivered. It takes time. It takes an unbelievable amount of time to get things synchronized with your passing game and your protection and making sure everybody knows their routes and what space looks like in terms of how to get away from people. But I would say at this point, today's July 22nd, I would say that the competitions that we've had with Parkersburg, Warren, Waterford, Rosecrans, and Coshocton, we've been pretty pleased with what we've seen so far. Once we get bodies moving in all directions in front of him and have a full on pass rush and pass protection, those are things that change the whole game. So sitting back in a 7-on-7 and just throwing darts and picking people apart is a lot different than inside linebacker blitzes, outside linebacker blitzes, guys getting beat up front. So those are the things that we're going to try to really focus on in the next month or so to make him as uncomfortable as possible so that he can learn how to deal with that discomfort and still be able to deliver the ball where it needs to be. But we really, back to the balance thing, we really would like to be more balanced this year and not rely so heavily. I mean, we had two senior running backs last year that ran extremely hard and were hard to tackle and were both had great speed. So maybe just a slight tilt more towards spreading things out a little bit this year and trying to utilize some of those skilled players on the edges. We have some seniors. Camden Stoner, senior tight end. Grant Carpenter is a senior receiver. Ahan, who was a state champion in high jump. Jacob Savage, another senior receiver. So we have some guys that we can count on to pull the ball in, and then once they have the ball in their hands, they can make some things happen. So really excited about those guys, and trying to get the ball to them with some opportunities is important to us this year.
And the Mahon kid, I coach track at Meadowbrook, so we saw Mahon quite a bit at different meets throughout the year, and he is an unbelievable long jumper and high jumper. So I'm sure he's going to be a heck of a weapon. I know that he was dealing with a hamstring injury during track season and whatnot, and he kind of came back near the end of the year and obviously closed the track season strong. But how is he looking as far as his lower extremities as this camp's gone on?
He's really had a great summer. He's really shined in our two passing scrimmages, and he just has that kind of speed that you can't coach. He comes from a track family. Both sides of his family are college track athletes, and he's long and lean, and he's going to be a weapon every time he's on the field. So utilizing him to do what he does best and trying to kind of tailor a lot of what we do to give him those opportunities is it's been a big part of what we do this summer, and how we've morphed a little bit offensively into from a ground and pound team to more of a finding opportunities to get him the ball. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. But when he's on the field, it changes the way that teams are going to have to defend us, and they're going to have to account for him being able to blow the top off of any play anytime he's lined up, or putting him in motion. They're going to have to account and put an extra player wherever he goes. So just having that ability to get him the ball, but also to have teams have to defend where he is on the field at all times is going to be really important for us. But he's a really fun kid to coach, very explosive, and there's just Jack can't throw it far enough.
Fair.
So
Uh, how many scrimmages do you have coming up over the next couple weeks?
so we have a scrimmage it's a 3-way scrimmage with Zanesville and Warren Local. And then our last scrimmage will be at Highland, a team that we hosted last year, Marengo Highland. We'll be up there for our last scrimmage before week 1. So two scrimmages, one of them a 3-way scrimmage. So it's right. Today's the 22nd, so a couple weeks, and then we're doing it for real.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, man. Well, Coach, thanks for hopping on today, man. Talking football for 20 plus minutes, and also just sharing. I know this time it's been a sad time of year just with the loss of Josh, and I know that you guys have been going through a lot, but it seems like everything is going well in light of that, and I appreciate you sharing your experience, your relationship, and your emotions, and best of luck with the rest of the offseason, man. And it's always a pleasure to get to talk to you every year.
Well, if Josh Wright was here, he would say the world's going to keep spinning. So keep doing the work, and get there earlier, and stay later. So I think he's a good friend, and I think the best way that we honor him is just keep doing the work and do the best that we possibly can. Pour as much as we can into these kids, because that really was his legacy. Invested in kids as a teacher and as a coach, and I don't know that there's any better investment than that. So I think that's how we pay him tribute, is to continue to do what we do.
Very well said. Well, thanks again, Coach. I look forward to chatting with you more as we get close to the start of the season and just throughout the year too, man.
Thanks for the opportunity. I love what Storied Rivals does to promote our kids and their accomplishments, and it's always a pleasure talking to you, Will. Thank you very much.